High tone. Does Scientology reject Darwin's theory of evolution? What would a Scientologist be instructed to teach their children about the origins of human and animal life? I know about the Xenu story, but what are the people who haven't reached OT3 allowed to accept in science? Hubbard actually changed his tune over the years, so there's actually two answers to this question. Initially, Hubbard talked about and accepted Darwin's theory of evolution, and in a book in 1952 called History of Man, he talked about incidents, that people could remember from millions and millions of years ago of evolutionary progress on this planet, where there was a spiritual memory line of the evolution of bodies on Earth, right? Going back to clams and mollusks and sloths, and he even talked about the Piltdown Man, right? Which of course was, the Piltdown Man was an archaeological find, which was proven to be a hoax within, a year of it being talked about. But Hubbard wrote about it as though it was fact, because when it was discovered, it was thought that this was a factual archaeological discovery. So he immediately grabbed this up and said that this was a valid memory that people were having from millions of years ago, and then it's all a hoax, right? And as far as I know, the Piltdown Man is still in the History of Man book that Scientology publishes to this day. So, Hubbard was following along with evolution. But in the mid-60s, during a series of lectures that he gave at St. Hill Manor in England, called the St. Hill Special Briefing Course. This is a very, hundreds of lectures that he took, years to give. He was teaching this course, and during this course, he said that evolution was an implant, and that all the stuff that had been covered before about evolution and all of the stuff about history and all that stuff that people thought was real was totally nonsense and not true at all, and was all this implanted material from millions of years ago that was put into our heads against our will, using a lot of pain and electronics and various things in order to control man. And that evolution had not actually happened, and Darwin had it all wrong. So, like I said, he changed his tune on that. So, as to what Scientologists aren't told to tell their children anything. What individual Scientologists do with the information Hubbard gives them depends on how much information they study from Hubbard. Like, for example, I was in Scientology for 20 years before I came across that lecture on the briefing course about the fact that evolution was all an implant. Up until I read that, I thought evolution was real according to L. Ron Hubbard and according to History of Man. And I think you'll find most Scientologists think that. But if they've been exposed to this, this material on the briefing course, which very few Scientologists have, just because they don't take the time to go through hundreds of lectures from Hubbard. But if they do, then they get this information and they go, oh, wow, it's all an implant. Okay, well, I guess none of it's real then. And then they get in this very, sort of like I did, kind of, well, what is real and what's not? I guess I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to go up and do the OT levels to figure it all out. And then, of course, you do the OT levels and you get the whole Xenu story, and that just totally rocks your world. And then you're like, you got no idea what real history is anymore. So basically, when it comes to science and history and what Scientologists accept as scientific, fact, they're very confused people. And they've been fed a whole series of very contradictory pieces of information and very, very confused information by L. Ron Hubbard. And so, honestly, I don't think they know which way is up or down. I didn't, as a Scientologist. I was very confused about a number of things when it came to science and history because of L. Ron Hubbard's maunderings on the subject. So, there you go.